I think it was Simon Sinek came up with this concept, and I found that I have been asking myself constantly, why am I here? Why am I doing this? Every time that you hit a hurdle, every time you're dealing with a language barrier, every time you're trying to get a document signed or any of the other many things that you face, you're constantly asking yourself the question, why? And for me personally, I've had a lot of conversations with myself, and I've asked myself that question many times, and I've come to a pretty succinct, clear understanding of my why I'm here, why we're doing this. And by having a clear sense of why, I'm able to put a lid on those times where I'm going through things that are tough or challenging, and you find that the more clearly you're able to tell yourself why, the more readily you're able to just get on with the process and not get bogged down with procrastinating or thinking about what should have been or could have been or what else you should have done. Keep your whinging to a manageable level. We all whinge, and it's part of life, and it can be therapeutic, but we can also whinge to the point where it can just be really unhelpful and unhealthy. And because we're not surrounded by a lot of people that will tell us that we're whinging too much, sometimes we can just be our own echo chamber and affect those around us and affect ourselves. And while we're whinging about little things, we're missing so many things that are important that are really cool. And so we're elevating those things. We're making the small things bigger than what they need to be. So I recommend, if you have to whinge, ring your nan, tell her that you can't get the chocolate-coated salami sticks or the curry-flavoured Oreos or whatever it is that is ticking you off on that particular day, and then be done with it and get on about noticing all the amazing things. Because unless you consciously monitor your whinging level, it can easily become problematic and you can easily infect others. So just keep a track of the amount of times you whinge in any particular day, and if you hit your quota, give yourself a slap. Be very careful about how you deal with social media. Social media is a great thing. It's a kind servant. It's a cruel master. It's got some great people. It's also got its fair share of piranhas and energy vampires that are just waiting to tell you how bad the decision it was that you made, or the thing that you're thinking, or to give you some information that's partly true and partly not true. And social media can really impact on your joy and your sense of well-being. And I've seen people who really get wrapped up in it. And because they're in a different country, they can't readily speak to a lot of people around them. They tend to overly rely on social media, and it can become more trouble than it's worth, particularly when it relates to the issue of whinging. You can get on social media and whinge, and then it's up there for memoriam. So in 6 months' time, when you've gotten over your whinge, people can come on and remind you of the thing that you're whinging about and send you back down that dark hole. So just don't rely on it too much. It's just an echo chamber. It's also a great tool, but it is what it is. Don't make it more than what it is. Be careful about your language, and what I mean by that is your self-talk and what you put out there, and with specific reference to the term back home. I often would find myself saying, and occasionally I still do, oh, we could get that back home, or back home this was like that, or, you know, what you're doing is that you're creating a situation where you're almost putting yourself in an in-between state where you're not really acknowledging that this place that you're in now, this is your home. The place where you used to live, that was your home. And the more that you reinforce the reality of the situation you're in, the more comfortable you get with it. And I think that's really important, because when I often hear people talking about back home, it's often not in a positive way. It's often, back home, we could get this done more easily, or back home, that was cheaper, or back home that I could get that thing. And I've done that. I do that occasionally still, but I watch my language and I try and put the reminiscent side of my brain back in its box so I can get on with enjoying my current life, my current reality, and acknowledging and respecting my new home, because I love Paraguay and this is my new home. And I want my spirit to feel like it's in its rightful place. And it can only do that if it hears me telling it that through the language that I use. So just think about your language and try and reinforce the decisions that you've made. And you'll find that over time, everything will start to align and you'll start to feel like you're in your groove rather than kind of just in an in-between state. When you come to a new country, your community is the people that you're traveling with. If it's your family, your partner, your kids, that's your community. And apart from your life, there's nothing more important, maybe also God, but apart from that is your community. It's integral to your healthy mindset, your mental well-being, and your future success. So take intentional care of your relationships. The worst thing that can happen in a community is for your closest relationship, your marriage or your family relationships to fall over. And unfortunately, I've seen that, and it's a disaster. So you're under a lot of stress and you're in a foreign environment. There's a lot of things that you're dealing with. So just be intentionally mindful that can place strains on you, your relationships with your partners and your kids and those close to you. So care about those things intentionally. And while we're talking about relationships, more broadly speaking, be intentional and deliberate about building good relationships with other people. Guard your reputation and be careful to ensure that you put the right messages out there. You've got to really consider how big this thing is. You've left everything behind when it comes to your relationships and your networks. And now you've got to rebuild all that. Those things happened over years, and now you've got to rebuild your entire community. And you can do it, but it makes it a lot harder when you move with a lack of intentionality, and certainly it makes it harder if you create some waves, because friends come and go, but enemies accumulate. Bad relationships accumulate. You want to minimize that. Going back to the previous point, that certainly relates to online. You know, it's easy to sort of get online and slag away on an expat forum or whatever and think that it's not having an impact, but it certainly is, and it gets around, and you don't need it. What you need is to build a good relationship with that person who will speak well about you and will then create another situation or opportunity to have another relationship with someone else. And we tend to discount how complex the process of developing our relationships, our close community, and then our extended community. We tend to not really appreciate how long it took us to build all that in the former place that we live. We need that again, more than ever before. Don't be a drama farmer, be a drama llama. Be cool and be nice. Do that intentionally, because sometimes you have to choose to be happy. When you're in a situation like moving overseas, you don't have a lot of social interaction, you can get into your internal echo chamber, and without even knowing it, you can get into a negative state. And when I see that happening, I have a word to myself and I just say, hey man, like, you didn't come all this way to be unhappy, and have a look around. You're living your dream. This is my dream, to be in this place, in this beautiful place, and such great opportunities. So it's a crime not to be intentionally happy as much as you can. The most important word in the Spanish language, and I butcher it when I say it, is tranquilo. Tranquilo. Tranquil. Be tranquil. You hear it often. Tranquilo. They value it. It's about being tranquil, and being tranquil is being tranquilly happy. Not tranquilizing, but tranquil. You're cool, you're happy, and you choose to be. And that's one of the many things that I've taken from these stunning people, these Paraguayan beautiful people, is that they choose to be tranquil, and they're generally really happy. I just haven't seen much drama from them, and they've generally got just a gentle smile, and it's constantly reminding me that I need to be intentionally happy, and it is a choice. Just be mindful of what's going on in your mind, because if your mind isn't straight, if you're not keeping your head on your shoulders, if you're not keeping good relationship, if you're not building networks, then you can be in heaven, but it can be a form of hell. You know, you can bring all your troubles with you. You can bring all of your baggage, and who needs that? I came with a backpack, and so did the rest of my family. I intentionally left the rest behind, not just material, but as much as possible all the rest of the stuff. And now I'm just getting on, just having an awesome life in this beautiful country.